morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We hope it is good, and welcome to another episode of Geeks Who Like Sports, Season 2, Episode 14. As always, I am Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California, and I'm joined by my best friend in the entire world over in snowblown Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Lee Elias. Lee, how's it going today, buddy?
Oh, Ray, I'm not going to complain about the actual weather. You know what I'm going to complain about, Ray? I'm going to complain about my township because on Tuesday it was snowing, typical snow. We had a snow day, no school. It was snowing, and I understood because it was wintry, dangerous conditions for kids to be walking to school, and I understood. Wednesday, however, Ray, was very sunny, beautiful day. And we got a message 15, 20 minutes before school was supposed to start that school is going to be canceled today. And the reason was the back roads were not plowed or salted, which blows my mind, Ray, because just for everybody listening, that's never happened before in my entire life. Whether I was in school, God knows when Ray and I were in school, it didn't matter. Whether they plowed or not, you were going, right? But this one, it just seemed like they kind of forgot. And I don't like to throw people under the bus, but the township really screwed up here. And everyone around town that I speak to is like, yeah, no, that was a mistake. So we missed a whole day of school on a sunny day. Now, listen, I will say this. I'm very fortunate in my life that I can kind of control my schedule. So for someone like me, it's an inconvenience. But I'm thinking about the stay-at-home, the not stay-at-home mom or dad that's got to be at work, who might have already been going to work, and they got a call like, hey, you got to come home. It's a snow day. Then having to explain that to their boss, and the boss being like, but it's not a snow day. It's sunny outside.
You got here just fine, didn't you?
I will say the temperature was below freezing. The conditions were all there for this scenario to be met. But if you just plowed and salted the roads, that would not have happened. So, and now, Ray, you'll love this. It's Thursday now when we're recording this. By the way, for those of you listening, a little late this week because of the snow days and because of the things that were happening, we couldn't get into record. And Ray and I joked that this might be a shorter episode, but when we get talking, who knows? But here's the deal. Now I got a message today that tomorrow might be another snow day, and that we might have school tomorrow because there's another storm coming. And of course, Ray, that storm is starting at around 7 or 8 a.m. and going through the entire day, which means most likely I'll wake up to, there's no school today. Here's a virtual schedule. You got to go shovel. Happy weekend. But basically almost a weekend off school. So this is the ramblings of a parent. But Ray, listen, before we dive into football today, which I'm sure everybody wants to get my take on, the Browns, maybe another team too. A new segment on the show today. Ray doesn't even know that this segment exists. I have decided that we now have every week an official non-sponsor of the show. Ooh. All right. So this week's official non-sponsor is Zoa Energy. They're not sponsoring us. We've lost money because I had to pay for this. So that's non-sponsor. But I'm going to open this Zoa Energy drink. Hold on, wait. Do you smell what the Rock is cooking? Baby, that was me. That was not the drink. Just in case. Zoa Energy gives you energy very similar to Red Bull, except this one has vitamins. As I fill up my cup, we are not sponsored by Zoa Energy by Dwayne Johnson. And it's up to you if you want to support them or not, or just send us money for a cup of coffee or a Zoa Energy, the official non-sponsor of Geeks Who Like Sports.
Can I have a non-sponsor?
Every week we're going to have one. Next week, at some point, I'm hoping to actually order like a Domino's pizza and actually do like this week's non-sponsor is Domino's, right? And
because that's why it's even that. Because like today, like I'm drinking, I have an iced tea from my favorite sandwich shop because we were originally going to do this in the morning, but again, things happened. Our schedules flipped, so I went and got lunch. And I go to the Carving Board, which is a great sandwich shop here in Los Angeles. So if you're an LA local and you're looking for a sandwich with an iced tea, go to the Carving Board.
I love it. See, now, and I've been there, Ray. It's a great little place by your house. Now, my hope is this, that we do such a great job with our non-sponsors that people
become sponsors.
Well, people want to pay to be the non-sponsor, right?
Yes.
So you'll never know listening at home, but if we ever come on here and be like, yeah, our non-sponsor of the week is Kellogg's cereal, you never know. Maybe we are getting paid for this. We are really not. We really need the help.
No, seriously. Yeah, we need help.
Yeah. But non-sponsor Zoa Energy contains no fruit juice, 0 synthetic colors, and 100% of vitamin C. And that's the only vitamin I got 100% of. But there's other stuff in here too. Bottled in Tampa, Florida. There you go. And just like The Rock, it has returned to my cup for today's show.
Well, we're going to definitely be talking about Tampa later on. Again, like Lee said, it's going to be a bit of a truncated episode. We're going to be focusing on the football playoffs. We do have a couple of truncated. Yeah, we think so. Yeah, there are a couple of other stories, a couple of things happened today, actually, right before the show started in video games that we'll probably touch upon. And of course, just a couple other fun sports stories, but it is going to be a football heavy episode. It is playoff time. The super wild card weekend happened this weekend. By the way, Lee making fun of the snow, making fun of the weather so much last week. He had snow days. The NFL had a snow day. They pushed the Buffalo Bills game to Monday.
Correctly, by the way. I think you and I both agree that was the
yes. There was a huge travel ban in upstate New York. It would have been actually very, very difficult for the teams to get there. But we will get to that.
That was actually a bomb cyclone. That's what a bomb cyclone looked like. What we saw on the TV. That did not look like you could do anything in a bomb.
Although the Bills Mafia was ready and rip roaring to go with their shirts off and their tables aflame. But yeah, we will get to that in a bit. We're going to kick things off though. We're going to start with the AFC. But I want to start off with, by the way, Lee and I went 3-3 in our picks last week.
We did, yeah.
Which is respectable. That means we broke even. Had we been just betting straight up and we're not condoning gambling or anything like that, I don't know, call 1-800-GAMBLER or whatever. I don't know if you have an issue. It's not our thing, but
well, I got my phone.
It's not our thing. But if you were for some reason listening to us, we went 3-3 last week. The first game, Browns and Texans. Lee correctly predicted the Texans. I had picked the Browns. It was actually a shootout in the first quarter. It was 17-14 midway through the second quarter. And then the Texans started forcing Joe Flacco turnovers. They started capitalizing, really just started controlling the ball, and the Browns could not get their feet under them. Lee, what were your thoughts on this game?
The reason I picked the Texans, Ray, is I just thought their story was actually a little stronger because not that the Flacco story wasn't strong, it was just complete. Like he had already come back. He had already shown he could still play. And, the miracle of the Super Bowl would have been a great story, but it's like they had already accomplished the goal, whereas the Texans did not accomplish anything in my minds. And again, I'm going to say it. The youth played into this, right? You had a young quarterback versus an old quarterback. I should say older quarterback because he's still younger than us. But I thought the Texans' youth and execution were just a little bit better on the day. I don't think the Browns played a bad game. I just think that, at the end of the game, the Texans were there and the Browns just could not execute, which is better than the entire game not being able to execute, which we'll get to soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it was one of these games where I thought experience would win the day, and it didn't. But funny thing, actually, I just really quickly went down the list. I just looked at it. Of the most four of the was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, 4 of the 6 winners were probably, we'd say, less experienced teams this weekend than teams that had won. So that again just kind of shows that experience doesn't really matter. If anything, actually, home field probably matters because the only team to not win on their home field we'll get to later was the Cowboys. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that. Yeah, we're saving the 2 big ones for the end.
Well, Ray, this is what I'll tell you just real quick. I think that in a lot of professional sports, this isn't just limited to football. Especially over the last 5 years, there's been a real shift in sports where these young athletes are coming in way more prepared than ever. They are better athletes. I mean, and again, kind of helping you transition here. Like you look at a Patrick Mahomes. This is a kid who, like, this first year, you could see like this guy's different. Yeah. And you're starting to see that from other athletes now. They're better prepared. They're better educated in the game. That is not in any way a shot at a veteran player. I'm just saying that a younger player comes in now more prepared than ever before.
The gap is far less than what it used to be.
And the game has changed a little bit. Right. The game has changed actually a lot of it. I mean, Flacco played in a time where concussions were a thing. I mean, were not a thing. Sorry. So I just think that with minor rule changes and today's athlete, you're seeing a shift. I'm going to say, I think in coaching, you can start to make that discernment as well. So if we do talk about Belichick today, like, a lot of teams want him, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea, right? But
Yeah.
we will talk about that today.
For sure, absolutely. But speaking of older coaches, great all-time greats, Andy Reid and his icicle mustache helped
Yes.
lead the Chiefs. This was a case of the more experienced team. What did pull off the victory? The Chiefs at Arrowhead. I picked the Chiefs. You picked the Dolphins. This was a game where the weather really was a huge factor. Not really necessarily snow, but very windy. I think it was the fourth coldest game in NFL history, and obviously the Dolphins, and again, this is again why home field was so big in this playoffs. In Miami, it was 68 and sunny when that game was being played. In Arrowhead, where it was -4 and windy. And the Chiefs win by almost 3 touchdowns. They absolutely dominated Miami, who could never their high flying offense just could never get their footing and get going. Whereas the Chiefs were like, we can run the ball. We can run the ball. We can run the ball. We'll just win that way, and that's what they did. So
Yeah, no, I played into it, and again, I said last time we were on, I had this feeling about the Dolphins, but I think when I did not expect the weather to be that severe. And I think, I mean, look, it was so cold it cracked a football helmet. I mean, that's insane. That is insane levels of
yeah,
cold. And there's just no way Miami is going to be, I don't care who you are. You're not more prepared for that than the Chiefs,
right.
who know what to do in that scenario. But look, it was a pretty good season for the Dolphins. I think the Chiefs, if anything, the weather woke them up in the sense
Yeah,
of like, they look like a Super Bowl caliber team.
yeah,
Right. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, again, I'm interested to see what would have happened if that was reversed. Right.
yeah.
If they were in Miami, I think that would have been a different game. But that's not how the cookie crumbled, as you say.
Right.
And the
Yeah,
Chiefs
no,
move on.
exactly. Miami faltered there at the end. They lost that game to the Bills. That cost them home field. And then,
Yeah.
and speaking of the Bills had home field. They had that delayed game. And the Bills team is interesting. This was an interesting game because the Bills also really had a stranglehold on this game, but it seems that this has been the Bills' MO. Whereas then the Bills make a couple of mistakes.
Right.
They let a team back into it. Now, the Bills did win by 2 touchdowns eventually, but they were up 21 to nothing. A blocked field goal led to a Steelers touchdown.
Right.
And suddenly, even though the Steelers were making mistakes, the Steelers got back into this game. The Bills win, though. We both predicted the Bills would win. The Bills, so we were both correct there. And the Bills, I would say, are the more experienced team for sure, as opposed to a lot of the folks on the Steelers side, especially without TJ Watt. But yeah, Lee, this was an interesting one because the Bills showed, to me, they played right to their MO, which is they're a high flying offense, they're a solid defense, but they make a lot of mistakes. And in the playoffs, that can be very costly, and it almost cost them against Pittsburgh.
It is only in the super wild card round that you can get away with that.
Yeah.
And I'll say that if you want to win the Super Bowl, if you want to be a Super Bowl caliber team, the mistakes have to stop after this week. You can outmatch a team in Super Wild Card weekend and still win. And I just think that's what happened here, right?
Yes.
And I think the delay, they got a couple extra days there. It helps them on a metaphor front. But at the end of the day, we've said this, if you cannot clean that up, you are not going to go to the Super Bowl. And that's, as you said, Ray, that is going to be the Bills' biggest challenge here moving forward. I don't care what team it is. You can look at every Super Bowl team in history. The mistakes tend to stop after the first weekend of the playoffs. Look, I'll use my Eagles. The year they won the Super Bowl, I believe the first week, I believe we played Atlanta, and it was a pretty, mistake-ridden game. And then the next 3 games we played were perfect. I mean, just perfect. Your Giants, both times they won the Super Bowl, really streaky teams, but when they got to the playoffs, literally
Clamped
perfect.
Down. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
So,
perfect football. Yeah.
When I look at, the Texans played a near perfect game, the Chiefs played a near perfect game, the Ravens will play a near perfect game. So right now, even though the Bills are number 2, if I'm re-ranking this based on that, they're in trouble because all 3 of those teams, I think, could beat them in their current state. Now, with that said, if they clean it up, they're right there.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I was just about to say, if the Bills clean things up, to me, the Bills are actually the most dangerous team in the AFC.
And I agree with that too. But and this is why I love football. This is why I
Yes.
love football, because the any given Sunday approach in the playoffs is so fun. As much as I love hockey and I love other sports, over the best of 7 or best of 5, typically the better team should win, right?
Yes.
And I'm not talking about the better team on paper. Like, the best team wins the
Correct. The
series.
cream of the crop rises to the
Right.
top.
Right. In this, football, it's like a fumble. It's like,
Yeah.
you don't know who's going to get it.
Yeah.
And I love the randomness, if you will, of that. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But the matchups now, and this is what the other cool thing about, Super Wildcard Weekends is hopeful experience for a lot of people. But now you look at the matchups, it's like, I want to watch every game. I want to
Yes.
watch every game. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wait. We should touch base real quick too. Was the Chiefs Dolphins game the one that was on streaming?
Yes, that was the exclusive
Yeah.
Peacock streaming game, and I think it was like 24 million people watched. And of course, the very next day, 24 million people unsubscribed to Peacock.
They were pissed. Yeah,
Yeah,
and kind of rightly so. I don't know if that was the right time to test that out.
yeah,
Like, I don't know. Something didn't seem right to me about that. I think that I just want to talk about this quick state of broadcasting with that, raise that if you're gonna
yeah,
make it exclusive on streaming, which I'm not against, but I don't think there was enough heads up on that.
yeah,
I think people didn't know, and I think the other thing too is, look, I'm a big believer in value. So if you're gonna put it on streaming, put it on broadcast too, but give something with the streaming. I think Peacock would have
right,
done a lot better if it was like, listen, if you subscribe to Peacock for this game, you'll get 3 months for free,
yeah,
right? That's incentive. You get the people who actually want to be on there.
right,
Forcing people on streaming, not a good play. That was not a
yeah,
good play. People were texting me like, if they try and pull this again, like I'm the authority, like I could do
right,
something about it.
yeah.
I was like, yeah, you should listen to this podcast, whether unofficial.
Also, just want to mention it was still on broadcast in the local Kansas City and Miami
Yeah, but
markets.
nobody nationally cared about that.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
they were
of course. Especially
people were mad.
and the NFL in general, because they know generally more people are watching the playoffs than anything else, and obviously leading up to the Super Bowl.
I just thought that was a little bit of a cheap move by the
Yeah.
people that made that decision. Like I said, yeah.
NBC.
Well, again, look, if you're over 60 or
Yeah.
70, like that's screwed up. Like, you know what I'm trying
It's
to
a pain
say?
in the neck. My parents are like, "How do we get Peacock?" And I
Yeah,
was like,
it's
it just
ridiculous.
yeah,
Like it's like you need to be getting people our age or younger to want to jump on there. And it's like, look,
right.
I'll tell you this right now. I guarantee this, and I'll shut up about it. If you had said you get a few months free,
Hmm.
you would have had non-football fans sign up for it.
Yeah.
And you could have got them. This is what SiriusXM does so well. They give 3 months for free, and
Yeah.
right when you're getting into that sweet spot, like, I really like this, your time's up.
Like, now you got to start paying. Yeah.
Right. So I just thought that was a crappy move. I just wanted to put my thumb down and let people
Yeah.
know how I felt about it, Ray. And I'm going to let you get back to it now because you clearly want to move on.
Yeah, no, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, look, or it was also the most shared password weekend ever, right? Everybody using other people's accounts for people who actually do pay for.
I mean,
Peacock.
look here. Another thing about it, it's like we have Peacock at the house, okay, for multiple reasons,
Mhm.
and it's like I was also watching something else, and now I can't go back and forth, and it's like you're making this a miserable experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I was watching hockey. I was watching hockey for most of the Eagles game too, but we'll get back to that.
Yeah, and we will touch a little bit on hockey later. But one
Yeah.
other game, the only really good game of the weekend was Rams versus Lions. This came down to the very end, came down to the wire. A 24-23 win for Detroit, their first playoff win in 32 years. And really just great all around. It's a great story. Obviously, Jared Goff he helped take the Rams to a Super Bowl. They lost to the Patriots, and then they were like, "You're not good enough to actually win the Super Bowl." They jettisoned him to Detroit. Now, obviously, that did work out for LA because Matthew Stafford helped lead the Rams to a Super Bowl. But now it might be Goff's turn. And Goff played, for the most part, he had a little bit of a rough second half, but for the most part, played a very good game. And the Lions, obviously a team on the rise, whereas the Rams, a team that I would say, met expectations this year.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair. That's a fair way of looking at
right. I think that getting back to the
it.
playoffs, they kind of stayed healthy. Sean McVay, I thought was a great story. Mentioned in his post game press conference how this team and this year kind of reinvigorated his love for football because
Yeah,
he almost didn't come back for this season.
right.
But in a weird way, the adversities they faced kind of relit a fire under him. So good for him. But I'm very happy. We both picked the Lions. The Lions win. Great to see. And yeah, just a great story all around. And now Detroit will host a second round game as well.
Yeah, no, it was a great game. That one kind of lived up to the hype. What I
Yes.
liked about it was the mutual respect after the game,
Yes.
between Stafford and Goff and the coaching staffs and
Yeah. Yeah. And I was
um,
gonna say Campbell and McVay, like everybody, like, it was very,
yeah,
very respectful.
it was
Yes.
a good game of football. As we said last week, that trade worked for both teams. I mean, look, the Lions, aside from having a better kind of season, again, I always say they have a better storyline, right? They have not won.
Yeah.
You know what I love too is that, and I said this, I believe, last episode, they did not allow Detroit making the playoffs to be the story,
Right.
right? The story is we want to win the Super Bowl. We want to go to
Yes.
the Super Bowl.
They haven't had a championship since
Right.
1957.
Right. In this sport, right? And it's like
Yes.
it's so important that you understand that like the job's not done. That and
Yeah.
look, the Toronto Maple Leafs are a great example of a team that's like we never win in the first round. We never do it. They won the first round last year and got swept because
Mhm.
that was the goal, right? To not lose the first round.
Yeah.
As a coach, as an organization in football, where winning is probably the hardest. Super Bowl is probably the hardest championship to win when I really think about it.
Yeah.
Because in every other sport, you get another chance in the playoffs. You get more than
Yeah.
one game.
Right.
In a game where it's the hardest to win, you know, making sure that your players and your team understand that, like, look, we don't care that it's been this long, in the sense of like we're happy we're in the playoffs. That's not our goal.
Right.
And I think that you're going to see some stuff out of this Lions team. And I love the way they're being led. It was great.
Yes. Now we get into some of the two more interesting games for us this weekend.
But one of them was interesting. The other one was just,
Yes.
yeah,
Well,
man.
the Green Bay Packers now have the distinction of being the first number
Yes,
7 seed to
the
beat
first.
a 2
No
seed.
one's ever done it.
To be fair, the 7 seed's only been around for like 4 or 5 years, but
Oh, it's wonderful.
the Cowboys, who talked about, oh, we're so unbeatable at home, you gotta go
They
through
were.
Dallas. They were. To
They
be
were.
fair, the refs won them that last game against Detroit, in my opinion.
I would
But the
agree with that.
Lions really showed something, I think, against for a lot of teams to copy. And I think Green Bay was like, well, we can do this. We can run it at their undersized linebacking core. We can
Ooh.
block properly. We can
Copycat league, man. That's good.
and that's what Green Bay did. Plus, and everybody keep talking about, well, Dak Prescott hasn't turned the ball over. He hasn't turned the ball over. When you've had a propensity to turn the ball over in the past, those problems can sometimes rear their head at the worst possible moment. Dak had 2 terrible interceptions that led directly to touchdowns for Green Bay. And oh, by the way, Green Bay played a perfect game.
They did.
No turnovers from the Packers.
They played a
It's very
playoff
hard
game.
to win. It's very hard to win in the NFL when you lose the turnover battle by multiple turnovers. Now, Dallas scored a couple of garbage time touchdowns late, but Green Bay was up by 32 at one point.
It was not close. I mean, the closest it was late in the fourth. I think you and I were on the phone like, well, if they get 2 onside kicks, that's the closest it got.
Yeah.
And there was no chance. There was no chance.
Right. Again, they got garbage time touchdowns because at that point, Green Bay put in all their backups.
Yeah,
and kind of was just like, just let the clock run. Right. And it just, yeah, I mean, the Cowboys got absolutely dismantled. It was announced today that Mike McCarthy will be returning as head coach. And actually, so will Nick Sirianni, I believe, was announced as well. We'll get to that in a second.
It sounds that way, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing confirmed, but it does sound like both these coaches will be returning. And the Cowboys, though, they go 12-5. They win the division.
Just real quick, I don't think it's the coach. That's not the head coach's fault to me. I
No.
know that it does come back, like that buck stops here kind of thing.
Right.
But again, in football, well, head coach, GM, there's a lot of different situations there where this can come back to. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
and I'll speak about this with the Eagles too when we get to it, players got to play the game. And
Yes.
the Cowboys did not execute as players.
At
All right.
all.
I can't always put that on the head coach. You can say they need to get them prepared.
No.
But I'll tell you as a coach, I do not agree with you. If my players are not prepared to play playoff,
Yeah.
whatever, um, you know, shame on them. Shame on
Yeah.
them. And again, I'm going to talk about my own team in a minute too. But
Yeah.
the Cowboys did not show up.
No, especially and particularly on defense. And it needs to be said that Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, who a lot of people have been talking about possibly as a head coach candidate and for several organizations, that defense in particular got picked apart by Jordan Love in his first year as a full-time starter.
Yeah.
And if I'm looking to hire somebody, I am not hiring Dan Quinn after that playoff performance by that defense.
Well, it's funny because the Eagles' offensive coordinator is up for a lot of jobs as well, which we'll see what happens there. Look, this is what I want to talk about with the Cowboys. We could make fun of them all day,
and we will off air probably.
Absolutely, and I will say, like, the NFC East is very competitive in a lot of different ways, and a lot of this is just fandom from when we're growing up. But I will say this: fans of the Dallas Cowboys, this is my plea to you. You have a very rich history that is undeniable. I will never deny the Cowboys their rich history within this league of their two unbelievable kind of dynasty-like teams.
Yes,
but,
the Staubach era and then the Aikman era. Yeah.
Yes, it is time for you to take the chip off of your shoulder and live down here with the rest of us. By the way, we're not down here. We're up here because we're more probably realistic. It is time. You cannot walk around anymore like you're America's team. Like,
yes.
This ass kicking is a sign from God that you are not America's team anymore.
Nope.
Right. And it is time to start being realistic. Now, here's the other thing I'm going to say. And every team kind of goes through this. So a lot of Cowboys fans, I'm quitting this team. I can't be a fan of this team. No. You will stay a fan of the Cowboys and you will suffer like the rest of us. There's nothing worse to me than when a fan goes, I can't support this. Even Eagles fans. I haven't heard one Eagles fan quit on the Eagles right now. All right, they're pissed at the Eagles. They're pissed at the Eagles players and the staff, but they're Eagles fans, thus proving that you cannot hate my team more than me.
Yes.
We're Cowboys fans. And Ray, you and I know one, a very large Cowboys fan who I respect and who will never leave that team. That's the right way to do it. You don't get to quit on the Cowboys. You will suffer like the rest of us.
Yes.
Take the chip off of your shoulder and understand where you rank.
Yes.
Right? You are not America's team anymore. All right? Lose that. And until I'll make this statement, Ray, and I would love your thoughts. You're not going to win shit until you do that.
Yeah.
You're not going to win because you cannot get past where you used to be for 30 freaking years. And and I know you're going to talk about this, Ray. You are now listed as the longest drought. You're in that realm.
Yeah, I was just about to say the Cowboys have the third longest NFC championship drought after the Washington Commanders, who were not called the Commanders back in 1991, and the Lions and Commanders played in the NFC championship game in 1991, so they are tied, and then it's the Cowboys from 1995, so they are third.
And the Commanders are doing it right. They are very much moving on, right? They don't hold
part
on
of
to
that. And part of that I want to bring up is also part of it's because Washington has a whole new ownership group. And I want to go to your point about talking about the Cowboys having to move on. I think a big problem is Jerry Jones, Jerry World. It's all about Jerry.
Yeah.
And guess what, folks? When it's all about Jerry and not the Dallas Cowboys ain't going to be winning anytime soon.
I saw more interviews of him online than I did the team.
Yeah.
And look,
that's a problem.
Yeah. I don't know if him not being the owner is the answer. I don't, maybe being a little less visible. I mean, he would probably say that he's barely involved, but.
Or maybe not be the GM anymore, too.
Right. This is my point, and I'm going to say it again. When you're ready to move past what you were, you'll become what you can be.
Yep.
And I'm trying to spread a little, as someone who has created championship teams, you cannot hold on to what you were. You can have your legacy and understand what you were. You can understand the value of that, but that's 30 years ago. Get the chip off your shoulder, move forward. All right. And I'm going to say it one more time to the fans of the Dallas Cowboys. I respect what that team has accomplished. You do not get to quit on your team now. I don't care how bad you got beat. The thought never came through my mind not to support the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend. Not once.
Yep.
In fact, I don't ever remember having that thought. And believe me, before 2017, I had plenty of opportunity, like 4 years in a row, to want to quit on my team. All right. Or the bad years where we weren't making anything. You don't get to quit, Cowboys fans. You don't get to quit. You suffer with the rest of us.
Yep.
All right. The other 31 teams that are not going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yep.
All right. That's my rant.
Yep. And that also doubles for, by the way, going to baseball, Hal Steinbrenner and the Yankee fan. There's a lot of folks out there also. That goes all you too, because you're all in the same. There's some of you out there who are in the same boat.
Oh, Yankees fans don't get to leave. No. No, you will remain Yankee fans until you die.
I'm just saying, I've heard that from a few folks, and I'm like, so there's the front. There's the front runners. We found you. If
I can be a Phillies fan my entire life, literally every other MLB team can handle it.
Yes.
All right. We have more losses than all of you. Some of you combined.
No, but again, we're talking about this is what we talk about when we talk about bandwagon fans, front runner fans.
If you ever say that you want to quit a team.
Absolutely.
All right. Even the thought makes you not a fan. You should move on.
Yeah.
No, you will suffer. Dallas, you will suffer. The rest of us.
Final game of the weekend. Speaking of suffering.
So moving on to the geek section.
No. No.
I don't want to talk
down to Tampa.
No. Go ahead, Ray. I do have some things to say about this.
I will say this. I'm very happy for Baker Mayfield. This is a guy who's had 8 head coaches in 6 years in the NFL. Yeah. This is a guy who took Cleveland to the playoffs, beat the Steelers in the first round of the playoffs, and came within a couple of plays of beating the Chiefs in the second round, and then got hurt, and the Browns are like, you're the problem, because his shoulder got hurt, and then they got rid of him.
Yeah. Well, and it's because he was I think a lot of organizations don't understand this, because of Hard Knocks, he became very visible, right? Suddenly he was a star, and most people know him from that, right? Not just his time in the NFL.
And the dude's got a personality. The dude's a fun-loving dude. You saw it on the field. He's all over the place, right? He's a lighthearted, fun guy. And when you're not having fun playing football, which can happen very easily in Cleveland, that can show up sometimes.
Yeah.
And so
that's exactly what the Browns needed, by the way, was some personality.
Well, exactly. And then, by the way, they traded away their whole future to Houston, who then beat them in the playoffs. So
dun 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 dun.
Yeah, Cleveland. That is a team. If Detroit was cursed, Detroit was cursed. Cleveland is like super cursed.
Yeah.
Like whatever's worse than cursed, that's Cleveland.
That's a great statement, right? Put on a t-shirt. Whatever's worse than cursed is Cleveland.
Yeah.
The only good thing that come out of Cleveland is the Drew Carey show, and even that's old now.
Yeah, I mean, it took a miracle from LeBron to get you a championship in any sport, right. And you still suck at everything else.
And he still left. He came back, won, is like, yeah, that's enough.
And he's like, all right, I got to get back out of here.
Yeah, I did it for you, Cleveland. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. He basically took pity on the city. I'm just rhyming everything today. Worse than curse, pity on the city. Anyway, the Bucks. Baker Mayfield, by the way, has 2 playoff wins in his career. The Browns in the last 30 years have 1, which was by Baker Mayfield.
That's amazing.
I'll say this, Lee, if it wasn't for the fact that the Tampa Bay Bucks dropped almost a dozen passes over the course of that game, including 6 in the first half, it would have been an even worse blowout than it was. And I'll say, and that's also why I'll say, if Tampa Bay gets a couple of weapons in this coming draft, Tampa Bay is going to be a team that's going to be competitive in the South for years to come.
Yeah.
Because Baker Mayfield, to me, they found their quarterback to take over for Brady. They found their guy. He's the guy, and now build around him. But Lee, even though they're still kind of in a upward trend, that they're in a rebuild, like a mini build, because like obviously they just won the Super Bowl a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
They dismantled your Eagles.
Yeah, I wouldn't call this a rebuild. I mean, they had a huge gaping spot there at QB and they filled it. That's what that was. But Ray, I don't know if I texted you or somebody, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I knew in the first quarter we were gonna get our ass kicked, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
We were missing tackles.
Yeah.
We were not executing on offense. We just did not look like a playoff team. I'll say what I said before. In a wild card game, you can miss a tackle.
Sure.
Right. And okay.
You guys were missing every tackle.
Every tackle. Right. They just did not look like a team that wanted to be there. In fact, it was so bad that I'm kind of happy for the Bucs and Baker Mayfield. Right. Because he looked like he wanted to win. Right. The Eagles looked exhausted. And I'm sure that there's a little bit of Super Bowl hangover here from losing last year. They look exhausted. They do not look like a team that's at full form right now. I'm going to preface this too, by the way. None of these are excuses. All right. These are reasons that they are not good enough to win. All right. They look exhausted. Two, the last 7 weeks, the play calling has been ultra confusing to me. All right. Yeah. I always try and have some respect for coaches. I'm not there. I'm not on the sideline. I'm not making the playbook. But the play calling was confusing. I did not understand it. I was questionable play calls at a lot of different times. And I'll tell you this: when I saw the Bucs stop the tush push, that
was it.
We're not. It's not going to happen, right? Because that's our play, right? And they couldn't do it. I'll say this again: I don't know what's happening with that team in the sense of this. Usually, when a team is collapsing like this, there's signs. There's dissension in the locker room. There's injuries. Something's obviously wrong. We talked about this a little bit last week. I don't see any dissension in the locker room. Like the media is looking for anything. Like, well, Jalen Hurts didn't support Sirianni. I'm like, well, he didn't bash him either, guys. Like you're looking for stuff. So I really wish I could understand what is happening there. But I think it's a mixture of exhaustion. I think it's a mixture of some age. Mm-hmm. All right. And I think that subpar play calling by our O and defensive coordinators. Again, I think we won one game since we flipped our D coordinator to Matt Patricia, which is really surprising because he's such a good coach. But look, we looked like crap. In fact, and I'm not lying, this is not me not supporting the Eagles. I really was watching the Flyers more than the Eagles. They were playing so bad because the Flyers are fighting and they're a great hockey team right now. But I think that says something. Like I'd rather watch the Flyers during that game because the Eagles look so horrible. Yeah, that it was. And again, I got to reiterate just from what I said before. It wasn't like I don't want to support the Eagles. There's like I'm just supporting the Flyers because I know that they're playing and they won that game too. So it's one of those things of look, the collapse is complete. But I'll mention this to everybody because I just ripped Cowboys fans. You can point at us and laugh. You don't hate my team more than me, right? Like the city of Philadelphia is more on our team than you are. I will thank the Cowboys that their collapse was so horrible that I think people are more focused on that than us, which is funny. But people are like, what about your Eagles? I'm like, what? Like we don't you don't hate them more than me. Yeah. And as I always say, Ray, when the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl, let's go Flyers.
Yes.
And Sixers.
So there you go.
Sixers are doing pretty well too.
And now to be fair, we both picked the Cowboys and Eagles last week because I didn't think the Cowboys were going to get past the second round, but I really thought they could have at least handled Green Bay in Dallas. Right. And look, on paper, the Eagles are the better team, but that team did not show up to Tampa Bay.
They did not. And again, we had said it depends what Eagles team shows up. And again, like maybe there's a little hope on my point that maybe they'll show up, but they didn't. Right. And, it's a shame too, because I had to watch Jason Kelce walk off the field crying, most likely to retire, even though he's saying I haven't retired yet. He's most likely to retire.
Yeah, he's considering it. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably going to happen depending on the moves that they make. Again, the media is all, he's retiring. He told the team he's going to retire. I'm like, guys, why are you doing this? Like, if you didn't say it,
Yeah.
But look, there's a lot. Here's the deal with the Eagles. We have several veteran players that are probably Hall of Fame players
Yeah.
that are now
For that are
gone.
free agents and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So Eagles are going to go through a little bit of a shakeup. It is so hard for me to point a finger today. Um, so many things went wrong. The players didn't play. The playmaking was questionable. It's like you're not gonna blow the whole team up, right? So it's like I think this calls for a little bit of patience. Let the dust settle. Have some interviews here. Like they're not there. We're not looking at Belichick.
No.
Everybody
You're
wants
gonna
to
keep
blame.
Sirianni, but you need new coordinators
I
100%.
I would I would agree with that. I think that that's the most obvious thing. Like the thing with Sirianni, it's like, and again, look, people love you in the NFL till they don't. And it's like when I
Yeah.
look at Sirianni, oh, this happened on his watch. Yeah, he also brought us to the Super Bowl last year when nobody thought we were good enough to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like if that guy hasn't earned another year, I don't know who has. And I'm gonna say it again. Look, if the players were coming out and saying, like, we hate this guy, we don't want to play for this guy,
Right.
that would be different. But no one's doing that. Like
Yeah.
no one's doing that. And this guy stood up for his players.
Yeah.
So again, I think the only way he moves on is if a coach comes along that goes, I want to coach this team, and that coach has a Hall of Fame resume. And I am not talking about Bill Belichick. He's not going to come to the Eagles. There's no way they would ever hire him. I think Jeff Lurie and him do not get along.
Yeah.
So, especially after they cheated to win the Super Bowl. Anyway.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it later, but it's sounding more and more like Bill's going to go to Atlanta. But
Yeah,
we'll
it
get into
does.
that
It
later.
does.
Yeah.
Hot Atlanta.
Yeah. But before we get into the coaching carousel around the NFL and college, need to mention that we're gonna make our predictions. We
We
went
got
three
to
and
make
three.
predictions.
We
You go
went
for it.
3-3.
You say the game, and I'll say the name.
Yeah, so I think this is probably going to be the easiest one to call. Starting in the AFC, it's the 4 seed Texans heading to Baltimore. And to be fair, Baltimore, much like San Francisco, they rested everybody the last week of the season. They obviously have the bye week. Everybody's going to be fresh. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Texans get off to a fast start because of that. But I just think that Baltimore is just too stacked. They'll make adjustments on defense, and I think that obviously Lamar Jackson is a MVP caliber quarterback. I think Stroud will be there one day, but he's not there yet. Obviously, as a rookie, I think the Texans are a good team that is on that. In a year or two, we could be talking about Super Bowl contenders. Maybe they'll be the 1 seed, but right now, Lee, I don't see how Baltimore loses this game. What about you?
No, if Lamar Jackson had no playoff experience and they were a hot team,
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah, okay, this is a tough one. But we got to remember they lost in the Super Bowl not that long ago, right? Or I'm sorry, they lost in the AFC Championship game not that long ago. This is a team that's hungry and wants to win. I'd be surprised if they're not there. So I'm picking the Ravens as well.
Moving on now to the very interesting game. The 2 and 3 seed, the 3 seed Chiefs head up to Buffalo now. It's going to be another very cold game up in Buffalo to play the Bills. Again, we kind of touched on it earlier. I think the Bills are going to correct their mistakes. I think they're also a team that them in Kansas City, obviously very familiar with each other. They've met in the regular season a lot, and that's in the postseason a lot the last few years. This is Mahomes' first time on the road in the playoffs, which is interesting. I don't
That's
think
amazing when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, every game he's played has either been the neutral site, as in the Super Bowl, or has been at home in Arrowhead. I really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, but I do think that the Chiefs have been just as prone to mistakes as Buffalo has been this year, and I think that Buffalo's talent will win the day. I'm taking Buffalo in a close one.
Ray, I agree with you 100%. Not that I want to do that, but I think that the Chiefs have shown problems all season in the receiver position.
Yep.
And I think the Bills are going to be prepared for that defensively. And again, while the Chiefs kind of convincingly beat the Dolphins, how do I say this? It didn't feel that way. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like they dominated them. It felt like they got good breaks and things happened for them. Or more important, maybe
the Dolphins hung around for a lot of that game.
The Bills are motivated. The Bills have been playing playoff football for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Chiefs have not. I want the Bills to win. I don't want to see the Chiefs in a Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
I want to see Bills Ravens. You know what I'm trying to say? So because this is my feeling too. I think if the Chiefs do win this game, they may go to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah,
I mean, it's easy to say when there's only 2 games after that, but it's like, that's where their experience is going to shine through.
right.
But I'm picking the Bills. I think this is their game to lose. Again, they're
Yep.
going to be in Buffalo,
Yep.
right? They have every reason to win this game.
100%. I agree. Absolutely. Turning over to the NFC now, our first time
Moving
ever.
on to the geek section.
No,
No, we're not doing that yet. All
Not
right.
yet. Almost there.
Almost there.
1 versus 7 for the first time ever in NFL history. Niners hosting the Pack. The Packers. I mean, again, look, the Packers are flying high. I mean, my heart says, gosh, I would love to see Green Bay upset San Francisco after what they did to Dallas. But I just think, again, similar to Baltimore, I think San Fran has a lot to prove. They've got experience from last year. Purdy in particular has something to prove, wanting to get back to the NFC Championship game after getting hurt last year against the Eagles. The Niners, obviously, so much talent, both on offense and defense. I think similarly, I could see the Packers maybe getting a touchdown lead early and then San Fran just steamrolling them, especially in the second half. I gotta go. My heart wants Green Bay, but my head says you have to take San Francisco.
There are only 2 ways the Niners don't win this game. One is if injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Brock gets hurt again,
yeah,
probably no coming back from that. The other one is complacency, and I don't think they're going to have any complacency.
No.
They want to win bad. They felt like they got cheated last year.
Yep.
And again, look, I can't tell you the Eagles would have made the Super Bowl if he didn't get hurt last year. I can't tell you that. So I'm picking the Niners as well. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, though. I think the Packers are going to keep that game really close. I would not be surprised if this is one of those games that the Niners win on a field goal in the last minute or two. Yeah. But I think the Packers are going to put up a fight because their why is we could be the lowest seed ever to win the Super Bowl. All right. And again, they're not going to be complacent after beating the Cowboys. They're going to be charged up.
Sure.
So I think that game is going to be closer than it looks. But I'm picking the Niners. Yeah, I'm gonna say it with field goal in the last possession, kind of like in a controlled way, right? Like they're gonna march down the field, they're gonna have the clock, and they're gonna do what they got to do.
Yeah,
that's my prediction.
No, for sure. Yeah, and again, also the only other way too is if Purdy does not usually have bad games. He did have one a few weeks ago against Baltimore, but I don't see Green Bay's defense doing what Baltimore's defense did.
Right.
So,
right.
But yeah, I could see that too. I could see this being a low scoring game, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, so we're taking the Niners. And then Lee, gosh, this is going to be a fun one. Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, couple of number 1 picks that were basically cast aside by their original franchises, now taking more considered lowly franchises, a classic NFC Central matchup when the Bucks used to be in this division. The Bucks heading to Detroit. I just think that, again, I think it's going to be so hard to knock off Detroit in Detroit.
Yep,
that place is going to be electric. I think these teams do match up pretty well, but I think the difference, again, is going to be, I think Aiden Hutchinson is going to be in Mayfield's face all day. And as long as the Lions don't make a bunch of mistakes on offense, I see the Lions pulling out another close one and heading to their first NFC championship since 1991.
Yeah, again, we agree on all 4 picks, Ray. The standing out point for me, it's the home field advantage. I think that plays into it. We know that warm weather teams don't do well in the cold for whatever reason. One of the announcers last week had said, one of the announcers had said this really great quote during the game that, there's you don't want to spend too much time at halftime in the locker room because you start to get comfortable. Yeah. Right. And I think that the cold weather teams are just so seasoned with the cold and understanding what it takes. But look, I'm looking at the teams here, Detroit 100%. Right. And there's a difference between embracing the uncomfortable and making the uncomfortable comfortable and being uncomfortable. And like I said, you have to pick the Lions. Logistically.
But remember, the weather's not going to be a factor.
Because right. It's cold in Detroit.
No. See, for folks who
no, but Ray, it's cold. The weather.
Lee's making a joke because another dumb reporter
I was
asked
making a joke.
Todd Bowles, the coach of Tampa Bay, how are you going to get prepared for the cold weather in Detroit? It's going to be like 12 degrees
It's going
on
to be
game.
cold in Detroit, Ray. I'm glad you picked up on this.
Yes. The Lions, folks, play in a dome.
Yep. Yep.
The weather will not be a factor in this particular game.
I'll just getting off the airplane.
That's what Todd Bowles said. He said that the only time the weather's going to be a factor is the 20 seconds from when we get off the bus and get into the stadium. He's like, that's it.
So again, thank you for picking up on that. The point is this: the Lions at home are a better situation. And the other point is this: reporters have a clue.
Do better.
Please have a clue.
Oh my God. How dumb are you all?
Right. It's going to be cold in Detroit, and the Bucks are not going to be able to handle it.
Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. So there
I wanted
you
to
go.
see how long I could go there before you would cut me off. That's what I was trying to do.
No, I was like, this is enough. This is enough. I gotta clarify for everybody.
No, listen, I'm picking the Lions. I think home field advantage plays into this.
No,
that should be a great game.
The dome Ford Field will be rocking much like it was against the Rams. I think that, and again, I think Aiden Hutchinson, who had a monster game against the Rams, I think we'll have another monster one here against the Bucks. I think that, so we're in a full agreement here.
Yeah.
We're taking all the favorites.
I want these conference championship matchups.
Yeah.
Like I would be Ravens, Bills, Niners, Lions. Now that both our teams are out of it, that just seems like great. Like, and you know what? I'm happy for any one of those teams to win. I would not normally say that about the Niners, but you know, I kind of want to see what they can do.
And I'll say this, and that's the one game, honestly, I'm going to say, if there's going to be an upset this weekend, I think it would be Green Bay again.
Yeah, I could see that. But I'm saying, like, it's cool. God, this sounds so weird. I'm almost happy the Eagles are out of the way, because I can just enjoy the football this weekend. You know, and not having to deal with whatever the hell that was. You ever remember that movie Sidekicks with Chuck Norris?
Yeah.
I was like, the Eagles are Mr. Dumpling. Mr. Dumpling fights by smashing the fists of his opponent into his face. Like that's how the Eagles looked over the weekend.
Oh goodness.
Football.
Goodness. So so that's our football predictions. Real quick, other football news before we move on. Bit of a coaching carousel. Pete Carroll has stepped down / been fired in Seattle. Nick Saban has retired out of Alabama in college, and Bill Belichick has officially gone to New England. It is an end of an era all over the world of football, both collegiate and professional. There's already talks that Carroll will stay with Seattle as an advisor. Saban is retired. And funny enough, the guy who coached Washington to the national championship game now took the job at Alabama. And Washington has hired Arizona's coach, which is funny. So that coaching carousel, very interesting in the college world. But Lee, what are your thoughts on it being end of an era and possibilities of where Bill Belichick goes?
I wonder if there was a thing with Alabama. I was like, look, we're putting you in the playoffs, but if you don't win, you have to retire. No, I don't think that happened.
I don't think so either.
look, these are the greatest coaches of their era by a mile in terms of Saban and Belichick. Carroll's a great coach too. I'm not trying to poo-poo him.
Winning one of I think only 3 guys to win both a college championship and a Super Bowl.
So he's definitely deserving of this conversation. But we say end of an era for a reason. I think the younger coaches in this league are more dynamic, they are more expansive, and they are better now today than these coaches were. If Saban, Belichick, if they're 30 years younger right now, I think they're still succeeding. But I think that with respect, their time has come and gone. And it's like, again, with use Belichick as an example, like, you want him to coach the Eagles? With all due respect, no, I do not think he is the best coach in today's NFL to coach that team. Like, so, look, we also got to remind ourselves, these guys are in their 70s. They are not young. I mean, they do have a godlike stature and
Yeah.
I give that I have so much respect for these guys, Ray. You know that from speaking to me
Yep.
off the air and the videos that I do. But no, it's time to move on. It's time to move on. Saban has absolutely nothing to prove,
No.
in the collegiate world, at least nothing to prove. Belichick, Ray, as you say, he's trying to get Shula's record. That's what he's focused on, in my
Yeah.
opinion. He'll
20,
never,
27 regular season and postseason wins away.
yeah, he'll never admit that, nor should
Yeah.
he. But that's what he's looking at.
Yeah.
And then, Carroll, I think, is just ready to move on, and he's got his Super Bowl, he's got his NCAA championship. Like, again,
Yep.
nothing to prove, right?
Yep.
And I think their teams, in this order: Patriots, Seahawks, Alabama need new blood.
Yeah.
All right. I think Bama's going to succeed with Saban there, no matter what.
Right.
But Bama might go trending down now, depending on who steps in there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, that's
yeah.
why I think they went immediately to the guy out of Washington to be like, you just
Right.
went to the national championship.
Yeah,
We want to stay at that level, so they
Right.
poached him from Washington
for sure,
So
with a lot of money.
yes,
So yeah, like I said, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But end of an era. I mean, I really could not talk enough about these guys and the standard they set. But the standard they set has created the new crop of coaches. Like,
yeah,
and again, you look at some of these younger coaches, right? They're doing amazing things.
Yeah.
Just amazing. So not crapping on old coaches or anything like that. I'm just saying that young blood sometimes is the right way to move.
Yeah, no, for sure. The
Football.
Patriots, yes, the Patriots have already filled their head coaching vacancy. Jarrett Mayo, former linebacker for the Patriots, also linebacking coach for the Patriots this year, I believe, has now
I
filled
want a
it.
sandwich. I want a sandwich now because he said mayo.
I had a sandwich earlier. It was very
Was there
good.
mayo on it?
No, it was a blue cheese dressing. It was with
That sounds delicious too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a steak sandwich with spinach and then the blue cheese dressing and
Delicious. Now I have to have dinner. I'll be back.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm just
well, hold on. We got to finish the show.
all right, fine.
But yeah, so that happened, and yet right now it seems to be that rumors are that the favorites is well, first off, Jim Harbaugh got offered a monster contract to stay at Michigan, but he's still thinking about maybe going back to the NFL and the Charger job. If right now, if there had to be a favorite for the LA Chargers job, it would be Harbaugh. There's been many talks about how much Harbaugh wants to work with Herbert, right? And to be fair, this is a guy too who took the Niners to a Super Bowl as a coach. All the pieces are in place in LA.
Right.
Harbaugh's a proven winner. They could possibly make that move. Belichick said he wants to go somewhere to a team that's underachieving, that he thinks has more talent. That kind of says LA or Atlanta. But I just think Bill's like, I'm never going to wear powder blue. Never gonna wear powder blue. So sounds like he just had his second interview with the Falcons, and he met with Arthur Blank, the owner there in Atlanta, already several times. It's, again, nothing official, but it sounds like Atlanta might be Bill's landing spot, which is curious because to me, they don't have a quarterback still, but they do have a pretty decent draft pick. So who knows what they'll do.
What are you going to do when Brady comes out of retirement? And no, I'm just kidding.
Goes to the Falcons.
Yeah, no, the Falcons is a perfect destination for him. It's warm weather.
Yes.
They're a team that can make the playoffs. I mean, I know they need a quarterback situation, but here's the deal: if you get Belichick, you're probably gonna get someone you want to come there.
Right.
It's a good landing spot for him. Again, he's not the only coach. I know the Eagles offensive coordinator is interviewing for that job too continuously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's the Belichick effect, right? Of now that this has been kind of out there, this is what I'm interested to find out. There's going to be a meeting today where the owner of the Falcons sits down with his marketing team and they go, fans are really excited about this. We could sell a lot of tickets. And the truth is you got to be competitive. Yeah. But he's going to go somewhere. I think the Falcons are a good destination. I understand why he wants an up and coming team, because there's going to be more buy-in to his vision as a coach. Sure. Whereas if you go to a team that's almost succeeding, there's going to be like, hey man, we got here without you. We don't need you. Right. And I see that every day. I don't care who the coach is. That's the right place for him to land. It'll inject some life. And again, the Falcons were hanging around there at the end of the season. They weren't out.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
here's the thing: the Falcons finished 7-10, but they could have very easily won that division. The South is
Yeah,
also
they
a
were
weak
hanging out.
division.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were hanging. That's the other reason why he wants to do it. He's like, well, this kind of reminds me of when we were coaching the Patriots and that division was crap. I
yeah,
think I can win here. And look, here's the other thing. If he's looking there, he sees something in that whole
yes.
division. He probably thinks I can beat all of these teams.
Well, and again, 27 wins, that's 3 decent
Yeah,
seasons.
which he could get there.
He
Yeah.
could get there. So there is that.
I just
You know,
hope he
speak,
doesn't bounce around. That's all. I don't, I'd like to see him.
that's nobody wants to
Yeah.
see that as him limp
Yeah.
across the line to get
Yeah.
Shula's record. Nobody wants that. But moving on from football now, briefly touch on hockey. Speaking of landing spots, this was an interesting story. Corey Perry, who was let go from the Blackhawks after some sort of disciplinary
He's a
action or
mother
whatever.
trucker. Mother trucker.
He's
Saying
now
trucker
eligible
for
to
those of you with kids.
sign anywhere he wants in the NHL. Lee, dude's got a lot of experience. He's an interesting personality. Would you want Corey Perry on your Flyers on the fourth line, maybe to kind of help maybe make the playoff push?
No. No, I'll tell you why. First off, the Flyers are surging without any superstars in that team right now. Why would you throw him into the mix and ruffle feathers?
Yeah.
Someone has to sit if he's there.
Oh, and Perry versus Torts, that's going to be drama every night.
It's not going to work. The other thing too is that there's we're entering that time of the NHL season. Buyers, traders at the trade deadline. Look, the Flyers are doing really well without anything. So it's like, do you really want to mess with that? Now, I think a trade is likely before the trade deadline for the Flyers.
Sure.
But I think it's going to be one of our lesser known players, like a Walker defenseman, to kind of strengthen the blue line.
Maybe a prospect or something.
Yeah, keeping in mind too, people forget this: the Flyers have really great prospects in the pipeline. And while you always want to win the Stanley Cup, this might not be the year that we're destined to do that. We need playoff experience. We got to see who can play. Don't get me wrong: if someone offers something that we can't refuse, I'm sure they'll take it. But this is a team that is well ahead of schedule right now in terms of their rebuild, and they are insanely fun to watch. They just do not quit. I'm not bringing in anyone that might disrupt that. Corey Perry, unfortunately, whether he wants it or not, is a distraction to whatever team he goes to. I think it is much more likely he goes to a bubble team, which the Flyers are not a bubble team right now. They are a playoff team as of the moment.
I can see him going more to like a Washington or something.
Yeah, like a team that's floundering a little bit, that might need a little bit of a push. That's what I see. Even maybe a Florida, but I don't see him. He's going to get signed somewhere. Unless one of these playoff teams wants to take a push, like a Toronto or something like that, which I think again will be a distraction. I don't see him coming to a team in Philadelphia or the Rangers or anything like that.
I was going to say, I don't think he goes to the Rangers either. As much as the Rangers, I would say probably with all the injuries, do need another depth forward, like another third or fourth line forward. I don't want Corey Perry.
We also got to keep in mind that's what he is. This isn't Corey Perry from 10 years ago where he's
he is threat. Again. I was going to say even like I said, he's a fourth liner on the Flyers. He's a fourth liner on the Rangers. If that, and again, it's here's the thing: the Rangers. If Philip Hedl gets healthy, if Tyler Pitlick gets healthy, the Rangers are fine.
Yeah, look, here's some insight for people too on the NHL is that most NHL rosters, most players, and listen to me, most players, I'm talking 90% of your lineup is very tradable all the time. All right. A lot of people, I can't trade this guy. There are very few guys on a team you cannot trade.
Yep.
All right. Most things are roles to be filled. And it's like when I look at the Flyers, because you brought it up, okay, do I want a near retired Corey Perry to be on my fourth line, or do I want a young guy that wants to earn a spot? Well, I want the young guy that wants to earn a spot.
You want the hunger.
Yeah. All right. So I think it's more likely Corey Perry goes to some place that needs to sell tickets. Unless there is a team out there that really feels that he fits their system.
Yeah.
All right. That needs a kind of a pest. I don't know. He should be signed. But look, depending on what happened, and look, these GMs talk. So whatever happened there, they know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he might be blackballed. They might not. Nobody might take him.
Yeah, no, that's
right?
very true.
So
It's
I
very
don't
true.
know. I mean, what's turning out to be a disastrous season for Chicago right now.
Yes.
Chicago is having a season. I'm going to say it. This is the type of season that will make Connor Bedard leave Chicago after his rookie contract if they're not
Yep.
careful.
Oh,
Right?
100%.
He's broken jaw. He's got I mean, the way they handled that Corey Perry thing was despicable
Yep.
to him. Why would you want to stay?
Yep.
Right. So, yeah. And look, like, let's do that comparison. You got Chicago media and the national media playing up this whole Perry slept with Bedard's mother. Right. Do you want that culture, or do you want the culture of Philadelphia where it's, you don't want to be here? Goodbye. We don't want you. You want to be a Flyer? You're not going to be a Flyer. Right.
Or New York, come to the Rangers.
Yeah. Jamie Drysdale, who we got for from Anaheim for Cutter Gauthier, had the easiest landing in the history of the NHL. All he has to do is land and be like, I love Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a great place to play. It's exactly what he did. The whole city loves him. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, but that's culture building. You don't want to be here. We don't want you to be here. Chicago. So did you bang his mom? Like that's literally the culture there right now. After
they got a lot of issues, a lot of
crap
issues
that they've just dealt with those Cup teams. So
yeah,
no, I do not want Corey Perry on the Flyers. Man has had a really good career. He's hated almost as much as Brad Marchand, but I do not want him on the Flyers. No, I think it would be a horrible move.
Yeah.
Thank
Could you imagine if he went to Boston?
Huh? No, they don't need him. Yeah, they don't need him because Marchand's there. No, I think it's more likely you see him go to a Florida or an Arizona. Like,
yeah,
you know, I'm going to say it again. This is if he's not being blackballed by the GMs.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, they're like you said, I think the idea that he goes to a bubble team, maybe a Seattle, something like that. Like I could see that. Like
they don't want to mess up. They're a playoff team too in the past. So
yeah.
Or maybe he'll be sent to Winnipeg to die in the cold.
Winnipeg's playing great right now too, though.
They're the best team in the league.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Winterpeg. No, it's you're gonna be our extra player. You sit here. You're never dressing.
Yeah, you're never.
your penance is you have to live in Winnipeg for the rest of the season. Where it's -9 right now. I'm not kidding. Fahrenheit.
I got a chill just thinking about it.
-9 Fahrenheit. It's like -30 something Celsius.
Ugh. Anyway.
Winterpeg.
You know where it's not winter right now? Australia.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, technically it is winter, but their winter is like our summer in terms of the weather and temperature.
Yes.
You know who's going to be going down to Australia very, very soon? The WWE. Oh. No, I wish. Australia is beautiful this time of year, actually. I went a few years ago.
I've got a friend in Australia, yeah.
Yeah. Australia is beautiful. But no, WWE is going for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, and so they're sending folks ahead of that pay-per-view that's going to be at the end of February to kind of start getting tickets sold and get everybody out there. And so you've got all the wrestlers going down, maybe 2 or 3 at a time, doing all the local talk shows and the morning shows, right? Their version of the Today Show down there in Australia and all that other stuff, you know, whatever it's called, Sunrise or whatever. I have no idea. But Grayson Waller and LA Knight, LA Knight was there with Grayson Waller. Waller is a heel right now in wrestling. He's also Australian, so it's like he got to it's a natural fit, mate, for me to be down here talking about shrimps on the barbie. And I apologize to all my Australian friends for doing that terrible accent, but he's down there. And the hosts of the morning show program got the idea that it might be fun to pick a fight with a professional wrestler. And was basically like, oh, come on, mate. What you do ain't that hard. It's just a couple of this and that. I could take a punch and all this other stuff. And if y'all don't know I think it was the John Stossel story from the 80s when he actually, do not ever call wrestling fake.
Never.
Do not pick a fight with a professional wrestler. These guys, it's like picking a fight with I don't know, Tom Wilson on the Caps, or picking a fight with, Tristan Wirfs, the left tackle for the Bucks. Like, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. And if you do it, you're an idiot.
You are.
And rightfully so, Grayson Waller had to be held back from he was ready to kick the snot out of this presenter down there in Australia because, folks, The outcome may be predetermined, but wrestling, what they do in the ring, is not fake.
No.
And these guys are athletes. And if you think you can do what they can do, boy, I would have loved to have seen Grayson Waller absolutely clean this guy's clock. He is lucky. That dude is lucky that he got held back. Lee, why are people stupid?
Well, Ray, that's a large question.
Yeah.
You said we're doing a truncated episode, right?
Yeah, I know.
I don't have the 7 years it would take to answer that. Uh, Look, I don't know how, unless this guy's just trying to get a rise,
Yeah.
eh, it's so disrespectful.
Yeah.
It's just so disrespectful for everything that's happened in professional wrestling. Um, it is so well known that the action is not fake.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like when I see people on there who go like, well, why do people even play sports? It's like, I don't have time for you right now
Yeah.
to explain the value of competition or storylines or the magic of escapism that sports bring us. Not to mention the vehicle that they are for our growths as people. If you are seriously playing a sport, but
Yeah.
the problem I have with a question like that is that there are so many people around the world that find great joy in professional wrestling,
Yeah.
and you negate them when you say something stupid like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's irresponsible, even if you're trying to get a rise out of somebody.
Yeah.
Right. To me, it's no different than when a Hollywood reporter asks a woman what she's wearing or how tight her underwear is, or why women's sports don't work. It's just as stupid. Right. So,
Or what the weather's going to be like in Detroit.
in the dome.
In the
Right?
dome.
Ray,
It's a lot. It's unpreparedness and unprofessionalness.
Yeah, and like Ray, you have taken immense joy from professional wrestling, and I know several other people. Savi, our editor on this show, I mean, loves it. I'm not using that word lightly.
Yeah.
Who the hell are you? Like,
Yeah.
like I would never go into an interview with something maybe I didn't know a lot about, unprepared.
Yes.
All right. Or I would take the approach of, I don't understand this. Let me learn.
Yes. And I will say this, it did not appear that this was a bit also, right?
No,
This
it
did
was
not
probably
appear
real.
Yeah. So, because I know sometimes wrestling will do that, try and get a rise out of people to go viral. I don't think this was a bit. I really think this dude was just an idiot. And if he was a bit and he went along with it, he looks really, really bad. And that's really, really dumb for him personally and his career to make himself look bad to help the WWE sell tickets.
Stupid.
Very stupid. Moving into the geek section fully now. You know what else was kind of stupid? The ending of She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Me and Lee, for those who don't know, me and Lee were big defenders of the show because a lot of people were on the show from the very beginning. Really loved the first 8 episodes of the show, and then they really screwed up the landing. Episode 9, the season finale, was not very good, and it came out this week. That several folks with the show said there's probably not going to be a season 2. That She-Hulk, they did hint that She-Hulk will return at some point, maybe as a cameo in one of the movies or maybe some other show. But her show seems to be completely kaput now. Right. And honestly, again, this comes as no surprise just because the way the first season ended, they really kind of didn't set things up for a season 2, nor give us a good enough feeling that we want a season 2.
No,
Lee, what is your thoughts on this?
When I reflect on that show, a few things come to mind. I think it had a strong start. Yes. I appreciated the thought process of Bruce Banner Hulk doesn't understand what it is to be a woman. I was like, oh, okay, this is good perspective that, she has a different take on Hulk. But the show devolved into, making men look stupid. I mean, some of the characters in this show, like I can't even remember the guy's name that was Bukowski, right? Where, he was like, that's his name, Mr. Bukowski. I remember the guy saying that. He was a womanizer and he's an idiot. And it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know many guys that are animated to the point of that level of misogyny anymore. And it's like, I don't think you have to make men look stupid to empower women. And I think that show did that. All right. Mm-hmm. I think that it's a stronger message. And like we saw Barbie do this, you saw other films do this, where it's, together we will empower women. Not that women need men, in the sense of to be powerful, but together we can empower each other, and that's the
Yeah.
way forward. And I think She-Hulk failed massively on that front. And then B is that the fourth wall breaks were fun until they weren't. And
Right.
it's like, you failed massively at the fourth wall breaks. And Deadpool is so good at that. But
Yeah.
like the last episode, spoiler, I mean, we're way past the point of a spoiler, but like I don't know what it was. I didn't
Yeah.
understand where we were going. Like, oh, it's funny. And I'm like, this is
It's not.
Marvel. This is
Yeah.
Marvel. You can't do stupid crap like that. Like we're
Yeah.
you insulted the storyline we've invested our lives into the last 10 years. And it goes
Yeah.
back to what Ms. Marvel said. Like, you're not making us care about these characters.
Right.
So the show started becoming a joke on itself, and it
Yeah.
ended as a joke. And I don't need a season 2. I don't need a season 2. It's more likely she's going to show up at some point as you said, a side character cameo to help.
Yeah.
But like, no, it failed miserably. In my sense, and again, I don't even know where you would go after the fourth
Right.
wall break. They had to finish the season. Like,
Well,
Joe
yeah.
Machine is writing all the movies. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? And again, when you put this up next to a Loki, right, or
Right.
the Marvels, which we didn't think was that bad, it
No,
just
I thought the Marvel's film was very good. Ms.
yeah,
Marvel as a show was great. Like,
yeah,
again,
it
I
just doesn't
enjoy
fit.
most of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it does not fit. And again,
yeah.
like Loki ended so powerful. Even
Yeah.
What If had a better ending. Like, so I just
Yeah.
don't know where you go from here. Like, that's probably where you're seeing it. What if She-Hulk didn't suck? Like,
Yeah.
that's probably next season of What If.
There you go.
What
So,
if She-Hulk couldn't break the fourth wall? This has nothing to do with the actress. I think she did a great job.
oh, she did a great job,
Yeah.
and every look, and that's the thing. Like, it's not the actors or anything like that. Like, I mean, look, and again, I think one of my favorite episodes in general in the MCU has been when she teams up with Daredevil. I think that was
Yeah.
just a really
was
fun
fun.
episode.
And
Like,
look, there's a great example of not man bashing to prove a point. All right. You do not have to bash men to make that point, right? I
well,
think there's another
and
way
you
to
do
do
more
it.
subtle things. You even have Matt Murdock do the Walk of Shame and all that other
That
stuff,
was
right? Like,
fine with me. Like that
Yeah.
made sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, because you're not making him an idiot.
Right.
In fact, you're making a statement like this happens too.
Right.
So again, I don't understand sometimes why things are written that way. I think they really missed the mark on that.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
Hey, if you disagree with us, leave comments. Let us know. But oh well, sorry, She-Hulk. Could have been great. Could have been great. It was on the path to be great.
It was.
And then-
I was enjoying it till like the last
Yeah.
few episodes just went off the deep end.
I mean, in particular, the last one.
Yeah,
think they
there was no payoff.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
good. It was not. There was no. I don't even remember the ending. It was like I was like, you lost me,
Yeah.
right? And again, there's
Hulk
no.
has a son. Hulk has a son.
That's
That was the
right.
ending.
I mean, I forgot about that,
Yeah.
right? And like what a loose end that is.
I know.
That I completely forgot about, right? Now that's obviously setting up Planet Hulk, which is probably where we'll see her again. But
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I mean, what a loose end that is.
Yeah.
It would almost be like making an entire movie about new characters that are godlike and then just leaving it in limbo afterwards.
Yeah, and then not doing anything with
Like-
a giant
like-
god
like
in the
eternally.
ocean.
Like eternally leaving it in limbo. Schmucks.
Oh yeah, like the Eternals. Oh yeah.
I forgot about them till you said something.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Real quick, little bit of video game news today. The new Indiana Jones game has been slated for this year officially and has a full title: Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Great circle.
Takes place between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. It's an interesting idea. The idea is that all the major religious sites in the world are connected somehow.
Right.
And so Indiana Jones draws a line around the globe and it's a circle. That's what you get when you draw a line around a sphere. It's a circle.
It's a circle. Basic. We've devolved to basic.
Yeah. Look, I'll say
Shapes.
this. It's by Machine Games. They did an amazing job with the Wolfenstein series and revitalizing that. I trust them in terms of gunplay and gameplay, and even their writing. And I'll say this: they have a habit of not showing us much good stuff and then really blowing us away when the actual game drops. So I will hold on to.
Oh, you always
cautious
have to.
optimism.
Yeah, Ray. I don't want to see great properties ruined anymore. I think there is a responsibility. Like I wish everybody was more like Back to the Future. Like there's a reason they haven't remade that film. It's because there's
Yeah,
no way to improve upon it. And like again, like the last Indiana Jones film was okay. I mean, that's all it
yeah,
was. Not high rewatchability. All right.
yeah.
Again, we're a little older now, but it's like my kids
Mhm.
are not clamoring to watch, you know, the Dial of Destiny.
Right,
so
right.
the Great Circle, is
Might
Simba
not
gonna
have a
pop
great
out in it?
title, but I still have faith it could be a good game.
I hope it is a good game. Because like
Yes.
my last memory of a Indiana Jones game is an arcade game where he was running around in the Temple of Doom game from the 1980s.
There was a game on the Wii, I
I
think
remember
called
that.
the Staff of Kings that was actually
Yeah.
pretty decent.
Yeah, there was another one in the middle there. You remember that arcade game I'm talking about where you get to ride in the
Yeah.
carts and
Yeah.
that was actually a pretty fun game.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the storyline, but yeah, no, I will again, we'll see what happens. I really hope it's good because I
Yeah.
think that as we've seen with Star Wars, gaming can really be a great avenue for some of these properties,
Yes.
especially for people our age, right? To like live in that world
Yeah.
again. And I think it is in the right time period.
Yes.
As you said to me before the show, a little worried about the voice acting, but
Yeah, they got Troy Baker to come in
yeah,
and do Indiana Jones. And I'll say this, I love Troy as an actor when he does original stuff. What ends up happening though, I don't think, and I'm sorry, it's just my opinion. I do not think Troy is the best impressionist.
yeah,
I feel like that, and again, he doesn't have to do it often, but I think that's what happened when he tried to do the Joker and tried to impersonate Mark Hamill in Arkham Origins. And I think that I feel I got that here in this trailer where it felt like he's obviously trying to impersonate Harrison Ford, and instead and especially it's harder with obviously Indiana Jones because it isn't this abstract character like the
no,
Joker
you know
that
the
has had.
voice, yeah.
Right. Like so I get that. And I think that's why also, though, I feel like that they just were like, let's get the biggest voice acting name we can in games and
Well,
let's have him try to do an impression. And I don't personally, again, look, we'll see how it goes over the course of a whole 20-hour campaign or however long it is. But I heard that trailer today and his impression just irked me a little bit.
Ray, let me ask you this, right? Assuming everyone was in agreement, like this is one of those situations where I'm like, AI, might be an option in the sense of like you might not be able to get Harrison Ford to do it,
Right.
but it's like, again, Harrison Ford would have to agree to it, but it's
Mhm.
like, why could you not get someone and have an AI Harrison Ford voice? We know it can happen,
Right.
right? And it'll be good.
Yeah.
That's one of those situations where I'm like, well, why wouldn't you correctly pay people to do that?
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean,
Obviously
and again, people,
pay.
you can't do it. Well, James Earl Jones did it for Darth Vader in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Like, and again, people, if you ever watched Rogue One, that's James Earl Jones, but you can tell he's old in the way
Yeah.
his Vader voice. And then when they did Obi-Wan, it was James Earl Jones, but they AI enhanced it, and it
Yeah.
sounded way better.
Yeah. I think that
You
would have
were
been,
warned.
I think they should have tried something like that here,
Yeah,
personally.
people would have appreciated it. Again,
Yeah.
this is assuming Harrison Ford was okay with it. If he's not okay with it,
Yes.
you can't use it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
but if I'm
So,
Harrison Ford, I'm like, no, it's me. Like you can't.
yeah.
Nobody else is Indiana Jones but me
Right.
for
Not
now.
while he's still alive.
Yeah,
Like, so, I mean, it's not like he's done with the character. He literally just did a film. So,
literally. Yeah.
yeah. So it just, I don't know. An interesting choice there. Real quick, other video game news that broke today. Very small things about some numbers that I think that Lee would probably find fascinating. I think I mentioned previously on an episode that it's estimated the video game industry made $181 billion last year worldwide. That is a slight increase from the year before. We also have now more of a microcosm now, numbers coming out in the US. The United States video game market made $57.2 billion. So they contributed about a third of that 181 number. And that's represents 1% growth year over year,
That's how
which is
lazy we are. No, I'm just kidding.
1% growth, the same as our waistbands as we get older and continue to sit and play video games and eat chips. Yes, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Waistbands and the sea level.
yes, yes.
Hey,
The temperature rising, everything 1%.
the rising tide lifts all ships.
Yes. and
And
floods
takes
all
away
base
land. Yeah.
and floods all basement apartments.
There you go. Yeah.
So, but yeah,
But
so
who
that
you
was
wouldn't know that if you're playing games upstairs, so it doesn't matter.
exactly. That's why I'm on the second floor.
There you go.
Well, yeah, so no, so that was an interesting thing that number was officially released. The best-selling games on every system, Hogwarts Legacy on PlayStation.
I am very proud to say my son just beat that game.
That's awesome.
And he did. He really did it on his own. Can I take a wild guess on PlayStation?
No, that was PlayStation.
What?
That was PlayStation.
It wasn't Spider-Man, or I guess not enough time.
That's what it was. Spider-Man
Yeah.
was number 2, and
Yeah.
Insomniac immediately was like, that's actually really great though. That considering we were only out for a third of the time that Hogwarts was.
Yeah. Hogwarts
So,
is a fun game. They did a good job with
yes.
that.
Do you want to guess Xbox?
Top seller on Xbox?
Mm.
I'm trying to think what came out this year. I mean, it's not Hogwarts again, is it?
No, Hogwarts was 2 on Xbox.
Interesting. What was the other big release this year that I'm not thinking of?
Yeah, once I say it, you're gonna probably say, "Oh, of course," but this year's Call of Duty.
Oh, of course.
Yes,
yeah.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3
that makes sense.
remake. Yeah, was
yeah.
the top seller on Xbox this year. Here's maybe a little easier one. What do you think was the top seller for Nintendo?
Outside Mario Brothers, which was
that was number 2. Mario Wonder was 2.
I was going to say Zelda, easy.
Yes, Zelda was number 1. Yes.
Yeah. Now it's funny, Ray. It's interesting to me because like you can't put Fortnite on the list because it's free.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering like what was the most played game.
Funny enough, we do have that list. Hold on.
Oh, wait, hold on. We have the list. Let's do it.
The most played game on PlayStation and Xbox was Fortnite.
Yeah.
So a game called Lethal Company was the top played game. I'm not even familiar with that one on Switch.
That's an interesting. I wonder how much money. I mean, it's like God, Fortnite makes so much money.
Yeah.
Again, interesting shift in gaming.
Yeah.
Fortnite makes sense though, because everyone I know plays that. Actually, so that's my son's about to be 10, my daughter's 7, and he plays Fortnite. It's like it seems like not just it's him, his friends, and his parents.
Yeah.
Including me. Like we all play it. So it's interesting. But yeah, no, Zelda makes sense. That Wonder
it's also interesting. So Nintendo does not release their digital sales.
Right.
So only physical.
Really?
Zelda was the top. It was the 5th best-selling game of the year with only physical, which makes me believe, because I know I bought it digitally. I know a lot of other folks who bought it only digitally. I wonder if Zelda might have actually been the best-selling game overall this year.
That would not surprise me in the least.
Yeah, again, showing folks the importance of, yes, PlayStation may have pushed the most PS5s so far, most consoles this generation, but Nintendo continues to make the games that people want to play.
Right. And they always will.
Yep. As long as they have those IP, Zelda, Mario, Metroid, Donkey Kong, it's just cha-ching, cha-ching.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think the mistake that Xbox made, and this is why PlayStation probably sold better, was having 2 systems, right?
Yeah.
Because you make a choice, and people have a hard time with that. So, and look, good on PlayStation for hanging around. It's just, I'm going to remind everybody listening, it's not close in terms of revenue.
Yeah. And again, and by the way, all those numbers, those lists, by the way, that's just the US. Those are the US based models because that's where we have the data from. That's where most of the data collection is done by a lot of folks, a lot of the world international. It's hard to get data from every country across the world. But the industry was released the MPD released that this morning. And I thought that was just an interesting tidbit to talk about. So
yeah. Do you have any more topics? Cause that one thing.
I'm good. I'm ready. I was ready to wrap up, but if you have something you'd like to add, please do.
I was just sent this by our producer that I hope this is true. And I want you to know it because I agree with it. Just learned that people born in the 1980s, Ray, that's you and I, are known as the DuckTales generation in Hungary.
That is true.
It says here, I've decided I never want to hear millennial again, only the DuckTale generation moving forward. And I would be proud to say that I am in the DuckTales generation. And I responded to this this very important news story from Caitlin, our producer. This was my response. Life is like a hurricane. Here in Duckburg. Right? So and she says back to me, okay, Duck Taylor. Doesn't bother me. I'm gonna text her right now. It works. I like it.
Now if somebody calls you a Scrooge, it's a compliment.
Scrooge McDuck. Yeah.
Well, yeah, specifically McDuck.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Look, maybe I think we did this one time. That's a top 3 banger of an opening song.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. I think I had that up there.
Absolutely.
I think I had Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles is in that list.
Ninja Turtles,
Yeah.
GI Joe is in the list.
I'm going to throw Inspector Gadget in there.
Yep, absolutely.
That's a
100%.
good one. GI Joe for sure.
Yeah.
But DuckTales could make an easy case for number 1 on that list.
Absolutely.
In fact, real quick, I was going to say it's probably DuckTales versus Turtles on that list.
I think that's fair. I think if we were to do like a theme song bracket kind of thing,
have we done that?
March Madness coming, we actually this is true. We discussed doing it, and then
we
got
do
really busy. I mean,
right?
with March Madness coming up.
Yeah, no, I think we're gonna have to.
Producer Caitlin,
like, I'll be honest, dude. DuckTales, Turtles. That I don't know if I could pick.
Yeah, we'll have to sit down as a team, I think, and come up with a bracket.
Yeah,
all these themes.
And like we got it. Like Ghostbusters, unfortunately, is Ghostbusters disqualified because it's not original. It's got to be an original theme song.
Right.
Right.
So Batman the Animated Series would count because that was an unused movie theme.
Right. It won't win, but it counts.
I agree with that.
Speaking of that, so kind of a little bit of a mashup there. We're not going to be having a mashup this week because of the way the weather worked. So you'll probably be hearing this episode Friday or beyond. But we're going to be right back with you next week with
back to
really some great football matchups. I mean, look,
yes.
Look, I'm a hockey guy. Hockey is my livelihood. Literally, it's my job.
Yeah.
But man, Ray knows I just love professional football. I just love it. And now that these lesser teams like the Eagles and the Cowboys are out of the way, we can enjoy this. And I want to remind everybody listening, if you know a Cowboys fan that wants to quit being a Cowboys fan, help your friend in need. Chain them back to their fandom. Make sure that they watch. Don't let them burn their jerseys. No, you're in for the long haul with the rest of us. Because for some reason, Ray, after 30 years, they've just now realized we're not good anymore. I mean, they're not bad. They're not a bad team. But you know what I'm trying to say.
They're not champion level anymore.
You are listed with the longest drought teams in history.
Yep.
That have won, right? You need to understand where you're at. Giants fans have been taking it on the chin, getting punched in the face. I don't know any Giants fans that have quit the Giants. I don't know any Eagles fans that have quit the Eagles. Nope. I don't even know Jets fans, Cowboys fans that have quit the Jets.
I mean, those are the most miserable fans in all of football.
Granted, it's a lot easier to like go in the bushes and come out a Giants fan and nobody might notice. But I'm just saying here, all right? You know, you don't get to quit on the Cowboys now. That I'm going to say, you don't get to quit on them Cowboys. You got to stay a Cowboys fan. And Ray, I do want to say in closing one more time, there are real Cowboys fans out there that stand by that team. And as an opponent, I nod to you. I tip my hat to you, all of you. Yeah. All right. But to those of you trying to quit this week, no, you do not get to quit. God, this sounds like one of my motivational speeches, and it makes me feel so good. You don't get to quit on them Cowboys.
And on that note, that is a great way to end the episode. So our truncated but not really truncated episode.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't going to be. It was
well, you know, we had a lot of football. It was a very heavy.
Caitlin hadn't texted me at the end of the episode, we could have saved
that. Added 5 minutes easily. It's Caitlin's fault. So she's just creating more work for herself.
She's just producing.
That's what she does.
She might not even watch this episode. She'll see this and be like, "Wait, what? You talked about me?"
Yeah, she'll put the intro, outro done.
Quick again, shout out to Caitlin, who has been under the weather and is going to edit this episode tonight because she knows. And also, big shout out to our unofficial non-sponsor, Zoa Energy. Again, you can see my eyes open up during the show, and the carving board, and delicious sandwich shop down the street from Ray. Ray, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I come and visit next time, that's something I'm looking forward to.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it as well.
I'd like to come to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. But on that note.
Okay, bye.
For I'm Ray. Thanks for listening, everybody. As always, we really greatly appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Hopefully, with our normal schedule with more Geeks Who Like Sports. Good night, everybody.